I welcome you to our 2024 Nobel Laureate Festival Student Debate. My name is Omar Kombi and I will be your Master of Ceremony and moderator for this event. I now invite Mr. Dasha Jules, Vice President of the Debate Society, to give some welcome remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Please allow me to follow the already established protocols. I would like to invite you to this exciting and thought-provoking debate. I would first like to express my immense gratitude for joining us. This event was preceded by our Nobel Laureate Day activities in commemoration of the legacies of Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott. And now we are due to witness the articulation, eloquence, and intellectual dexterity of the students of the Sir Arthur Lewis Public Speaking and Debate Society. In our interconnected world where ideas flow freely and diverse perspectives shape our understanding, debates serve as a crucial platform for the exchange of ideas, the clash of opinions, and the pursuit of truth. Today we find ourselves at the intersection to determine whether the annual celebration of our Nobel Laureates is more ceremonial than consequential, poised to explore, dissect, and critically evaluate the various facets of this compelling issue. As we embark on this intellectual journey, let us remember that a debate is not merely a contest of words, but an opportunity for us to refine our own convictions, challenge preconceived notions, and foster a deeper comprehension of the subject matter. It is through this dialectical process that we cultivate a richer understanding of the world we inhabit. Throughout the course of this debate, we encourage you to actively participate, critically analyze the arguments presented, and above all, keep an open mind. Each perspective shared today contributes to the tapestry of ideas that shape our collective consciousness. To the participants, I offer you my congratulations as your toils and passion for debate are truly commendable. I encourage you to make the most of this opportunity and to inspire us with your thought-provoking arguments. Finally, I extend my deepest gratitude to the organizing committee, faculty members, and all those who work tirelessly to ensure the success of this event. So, without further ado, let the exchange of ideas begin. May our discourse be marked by respect, intellectual rigor, and a commitment to discovering the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jules. A quick notice. The white Subaru PA 5379, you are blocking traffic, so could you please move your vehicle? Again, the white Subaru PA 5379, could you please move your vehicle? As Mr. Jules said, debate serves as a critical tool, especially for forming our youth. It shows them that they can fight with words and not weapons. It builds confidence, self-esteem, and teaches one to go outside themselves. I would now like to invite Mr. Ajani Lebourne, member of the SALCC Board of Governors and one of St. Lucia's prominent youth advocates, to give some brief remarks.
Thank you. Permit me to adopt the protocol to also recognize specifically the chair of the Board of Governors, principal of the Savory Community College, judges, managers, and faculty at the college, and most importantly, the students who are present here this afternoon. On behalf of the board, we really want to wish everyone a happy and a pleasant Nobel Laureate week of celebrations. But to particularly say, when I looked at the moot that will be debated here, I said, boy, looks after Lewis students come to ruffle some feathers, because it looks like the topic that we will be discussing here will really dig deep into understanding to what extent are young people integrated in the celebrations of the Nobel Laureate Week and the month celebrations, but also to what extent are we as a nation really embracing this celebration as part of who we are, given that, of course, those Nobel laureates represent a lot of the intellectual capacity of our people. So I think on behalf of the board, we also want to say that we're really committed to furthering the cause of the student experience at the college. So a culture of debate, ensuring that it's not just for Nobel Laureate Week celebrations, but there's a culture, a consistent culture of encouraging students to have that meaningful dialogue. And what we could look forward to see is perhaps even more debate amongst the various units or divisions at the college, between DTEMs and the business, between DAGs, well, it's no longer DAGs right now, but really to ensure that there is that, cross-divisional debate culture being created. But apart from that, of course, the efforts to strengthen student movement, student leadership, all of that plays into building a culture of debate, a healthy culture of debate and dialogue within the college. So we really look forward to, of course, the efforts to strengthen those structures, and really also to speak to, coming through the youth movement, I heard, I learned a lot of the experiences of persons like Armstrong Alexis, Henry Mangal, who came through the Savory Community College, and they spoke a lot about how being debaters and being able to discuss national issues led to them being where they are today. And I think for some of the debaters who are here, you could now envision yourself as the future leaders of society, given that the college has provided the opportunity for you to debate such an important topic as this one here today. So only to say and to reiterate that the board continues to be committed to strengthening opportunities for students at this college, and also to position the college to create the platform for young persons in St. Lucia to have a voice on national issues, and that's critical. So with that, really want to thank the organizers for pulling together this debate, the National Nobel Laureate Committee, as well as the Savory Committee. And we look forward to seeing many more of those discussions on other issues. We know that crime and violence is another critical issue that young persons need to have a voice on. So we look forward to perhaps a debate on youth and their perception of crime and violence and other issues on Ireland. Thank you very much, and all the best with the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Lebourne. Now let's get to business. If this is your first time attending one of our debates, where have you been? Don't worry, you are forgiven. I will give you the basic rundown. Our brilliant debaters will be tackling the moot. St. Lucia's annual celebration of our two Nobel laureates is more ceremonial than consequential. We have the proposition team to my right and the opposition team to my left. And they made it easy for you, they color coordinated. The leader of the proposition will make his or her case first for a maximum of 10 minutes, followed by the leader of the opposition, who will also have 10 minutes. Afterwards, the second speaker for the proposition will make his case for a maximum of 7 minutes, followed by the second speaker of the opposition, who will do the same. For the prepared presentation, they will be judged by the following criteria: soundness of points. So do the arguments make sense? Are they accurate? Do they align between the thesis, the points, and the evidence given? That is a total of 35 points. Logical development. Are the arguments well organized, clearly explained, and have convincing conclusions? That is a total of 20 points. Audibility and clarity. Is there appropriate projection of the voice, tone modulation, and clear and articulate enunciation? Total, 15 points. Posture and personality. How confident does the speaker appear? Does he or she maintain good eye contact with the audience? Total, 15 points. Command of the material. Is there effective articulation of points, steady pace, and a flow between the arguments? Total, 15 points. And that comes to a complete total of 100 points. After the prepared presentations, there will be a brief break to allow the debaters to come together and discuss their rebuttal points. In the rebuttal phase, any member can represent their team. It's up to the team's discretion. And the representatives each have 5 minutes to make their rebuttal. The criteria for the rebuttal is slightly different, but I'll get into that a bit later. Debaters, please note, our timer, Mr. Rinkich King, will give you a warning. For the proposition leader, he will give a 5-minute and a 1-minute warning, as well as when your time is up. Once your time is up, you have 10 seconds to wrap up and vacate, or we will evict you. The seconders, you will get a 1 minute, a 3-minute, and a 1-minute time warning, as well as when your time is up. And lastly, for the rebuttal, you will have a 1-minute warning, and then when your time is up. We will also have an auditor to assist the judges, Ms. Vasily Lord from the math department, who will help in tabulating the points. Now let's introduce the stars of the show. Debaters, could you please stand when I call your name? For the proposition, aka the black team, those who will be arguing for the moot, we have the leader, Shyne Savory, pursuing associate's degree in creative and performing arts, yes. For seconder, we have Rhea Barrett doing the CAPE program, studying biology, chemistry, and applied math. For the rebuttal, we have Faith Regis, also doing the CAPE program, studying sociology, literature, and law. For the opposition, aka the grey team, those who will be arguing against the moot, we have Sharm Peter, who is doing CAPE law, history, and literature. For the seconder, we have Sade Gustave, who is doing CAPE law, sociology, and literature. And then for rebuttal, we have Camron Gustave, who is pursuing the CAPE program, science and math. And now we will have those who will be judging these talented debaters. Judges, when I call you, could you just please stand and wave the crowd? So we'll start off with Mrs. Jane King-Hippolyte. Jane King-Hippolyte was born in Castries, St. Lucia, but had a peripatetic childhood as her family spent time in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and Scotland during her early years. After St. Joseph's Convent, she won a St. Lucian Island scholarship to study at the University of Edinburgh. Since 1976, she has taught in various institutions, including the Arthur Lewis Community College, where she formerly served as the Dean of the Division of Arts and General Studies until 2014. King has published 3 collections of poems, Into the Center, 1993, Fellow Traveler, 1994, and Performance Anxiety, 2013. She won the Minville and Chassenay Arts Award in 1990 and was the first recipient of the James Rodway Memorial Prize in 1994. Her poems have appeared in various regional and international journals and anthologies. She has twice been the chief judge of the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. Her poems are known for the wry wit, which they address the place of a light-skinned woman in a race-conscious Caribbean, as well as the concerns over the role of the creative imagination in Caribbean societies. She is a co-founder of the St. Lucia Lighthouse Theatre Company, and during its existence was active as an actor and theatre director. She is also married to the poet Kendall Hippolyte. Again, once another round of applause. Next, we have Mr. Donatel Lewis. Donatel Lewis is a highly accomplished financial professional hailing from St. Lucia, Educated at SALCC, or as it was known back then, the A-Level College, and the University of the West Indies, he specialized in economics and management, later delving into money, banking, and international finance at Sheffield University. With a solid foundation, he embarked on a distinguished career spanning Barclays Bank, the Ministry of Finance, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Bank of Antigua, CBA Bank and Trust, and the Advanced Caribbean Limited, accumulating a decade of invaluable experience. As a financial consultant in St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean, Donatier shares his expertise while also engaging in agriculture as a farmer. His journey epitomizes dedication, education, and a diverse approach, making him a prominent figure in the Caribbean financial landscape. Once again, a round of applause. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Levy Herald. A stalwart in our judging panels of our debates, Mr. Levy Herald is an attorney at law with a specialist practice in company, commercial, banking, property, and litigation work. He has a passion for education and often advises on matters of education and the law. He has served on several boards, including being chairman of the board of his alma mater, St. Mary's College. Another round of applause. So we thank you, judges, for being here. We do not envy your position. So we will now begin with the prepared presentations. But first, I ask that you please silence your phones and your devices, so we want our debaters not to be disturbed. And I will now invite the proposition leader, Shyne Savory. Round of applause.
All right. When will St. Lucia see Sir Arthur and Sir Derek as more than the mere figureheads at the entrance of the square? Judges, specially invited guests, media, debaters, and audience, good morning. For the past 10 years, the theme for the Nobel Laureate Festival has begun with the tagline, Celebrating Excellence. And celebration indeed. The festival has been observed since 1993, the year after the second St. Lucian won the Nobel Prize, and we realized, maybe it's not a fluke. And over the years, the one-day observation has grown to a week, then to the month-long festival that we have today. And thankfully, the perceived importance of these Nobel achievements has not been lost to time. Now, to couple celebrating excellence, the other half of the theme, which changes every year, has included slogans such as transforming lives, and this year, inspiring our collective imagination, fostering national pride. Now, these are goals, action words. Therefore, we need to assess whether this festival practices what it preaches. If the objective of the festival was simply to raise awareness of Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott's names, then I believe that we could consider it a success. However, we as a small island in the midst of an economic downturn and the increasing disillusionment of our youth cannot afford to have its consequence be, we have two Nobel laureates, The Impeled Louise, chair of the Nobel Laureate Committee, said this year that, quote, we cannot merely sit on their laurels. And she is right, but there is adequate evidence to support this debate's moot that the annual celebration of our two Nobel laureates is more ceremonial than consequential. In other words, as it stands, we have a festival that celebrates excellence, but does not create excellence. The proposition would like to take the term annual celebration to not just mean the scheduled events from the government of St. Lucia, but we take this as a litmus test for society's year-round attitudes to the legacy and the fields of our laureates in literature and economics. Now, to define the vital terms of this moot, Oxford, Cambridge, and Merriam-Webster dictionaries respectively define ceremonial as involving only nominal authority or power, formal acts often fixed and traditional, and having no real power or consequence. Consequential, on the other hand, according to Cambridge, means having a strong influence on events or decisions. Therefore, moderator, allow this proposition to demonstrate why the Nobel Laureate celebrations have an insufficient influence on society. I will lead by setting the social foundation, and our seconder will bolster those arguments with the hard figures of consequence. But first, we need to look in, out, and back. First, we will understand that St. Lucia's culture and social atmosphere inhibit any possible widespread effects that the festival could have had. Then, I will draw parallels with our Jamaican neighbors to assess what consequence really looks like. And finally, we will reflect on the era that produced those two Nobel laureates to assess whether we must transition from the recognition of success to the replication of success. Now, moderator, St. Lucia has really managed to pull off an impressive marketing technique because, as co-coordinator of the festival, Delia Dolor said at this year's launch, the world must know, quote, not only that we have two Nobel laureates, but that we do celebrate them. Now, we in St. Lucia have become desensitized to the term Nobel Prize, but go anywhere else in the world and tell them that we have the most Nobel laureates per capita, and you would be led to believe that St. Lucia is just teeming with learned intellectuals, that there's a bookstore on every corner in Castries. And yet, now the flagship events of the festival are arguably the two Nobel lectures. And I went to one last night, and accomplished artists and scholars delivering these enthralling, vivid speeches is a true gift to those of us who are willing to tune in. But in a culture like ours, with such a lack of regard for the literary and oratory arts, an hour-and-a-half-long lecture is simply not going to have a broad impact. No matter its quality, and no matter how accessible it is, its consequence will be limited. We are holding an event to mark a special time period when St. Lucians are not in the habit of taking advantage of these opportunities, and that is the definition of ceremonial. We cannot do one sit-up and expect a six-pack moderator. We cannot have one event or even three events and expect a lasting impact. St. Lucians must regularly engage with this kind of commentary before we see any lasting consequence. And lectures and even debates like this one would work well in a society where complex public discussions are the norm, but we do not have that right now. And the fact that it was our economics laureate who said, a society without the creative arts is a cultural desert speaks volumes. Now, moderator, in 2008, Usain Bolt became the fastest man on earth. Now, imagine if Jamaica had said, yeah, we live about Talawa, and then they bragged about they had this individual who made the country so proud, and then they never had another star athlete again. What Jamaica did is they created a well-oiled mechanism to develop their athletic talent, from the primary school races to the Olympics. Bolt was not even their first star. They got Olympic gold in the 70s, but they never became complacent. And in 2022, the women swept the podium at the World Championships, and they continue to rack up medals at track events against countries 100 times their size every year. They train their athletes on home soil. They don't send them overseas to learn sprinting while all they have at home is the Usain Bolt gym. They did not get a title and then have a Usain Bolt day every year to be like, yeah, man, remember when we did that? Jamaica has earned the right to be as braggadocious as they want. Yes, they celebrate with their ceremonies, but their consequence is crossing that finish line again and again and again. They pass the baton, both literally and figuratively, and they keep the flame alive. Now, back in St. Lucia, it's like the laureates lit the flame, but instead of keeping the flame alive, we took a picture of the flame and we're pretending that the photograph will keep us warm. Now, creating excellence and replicating success do not necessarily mean that we need the Swedish Academy to approve of us yet again, but it means that our goal should be to produce St. Lucians of a similar caliber. And we need people who will enact change in this nation, in this region, and even according to the Nobel Prize, for the greatest benefit of humankind. Walcott published over 25 plays. Lewis, while at Princeton, published over 75 works, 34 of which were on the Caribbean. And the outcome of this festival in their honor should be an attempt to match that magnitude, that quality, and that impact of work. But when this country has needed a pep rally, we have been hosting a memorial service. Now to my final point. To recreate excellence, we must have some retrospect. St. Lucia was a colony for the entirety of Lewis's and most of Walcott's pre-Nobel careers, and they lived in a time of far less development and opportunity than we enjoy today. But running through the veins of West Indians and this world from the 50s to the 80s was revolution. As Walcott said in his 1992 Nobel lecture, quote, "There is a force of exaltation, a celebration of luck, when a writer finds themselves witness to the early morning of a culture that is defining itself, branch by branch, leaf by leaf, in that self-defining dawn," end quote. They had the pride of building a newly independent nation. Lewis was deputy managing director of the UN Special Fund and an economic advisor to Ghana, but neither he nor Walcott strayed from their commitment to this country, the land that gave them birth wheresoever they may have roamed. And the Nobel Laureate Festival and St. Lucia as a whole fell short decades ago when we failed to create a link between that radical generation and its successors. Jane King writes that, quote, "Harold Simmons was the master who had helped him to see the artistic potential in St. Lucian things," end quote. And if we want to see change happening in this country, we need mentors and mentees, we need networks and communities, and we need to pass the baton of consciousness and national fervor. And if the Nobel Laureate Festival had the direct objective of facilitating that essential level of social interaction, perhaps we would be able to say that it is more consequential than ceremonial. But we cannot. The festival, whose purpose it is to honor the most exemplary St. Lucians of that time, has to bring what was in that era to the 2020s. Moderator, audience, St. Lucia, our lack of a strong literary culture has failed us. Our complacency towards living up to the legacy that we celebrate has failed us. And we fail each successive generation by having self-contained ceremonies only for the here and now. To disregard this reality would be doing our country and our laureates a disservice. This issue is far bigger than the Nobel Planning Committee. All of us must reflect on where we have fallen short and accept the level to which we must rise. To consolidate our legacy, we must put consequence over ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Savory. Can I ask for quiet from the audience? Can we get her time? 9 minutes, 40 seconds. So as our judges wrap up on their notes, just a reminder about what the criteria: soundness of points, 35 points, logic development, 20 points, audibility and clarity, 15 points, posture and personality, 15 points, command of the material, 15 points. And please note that the debate is just our first of our several Nobel Laureate activities this week. We have our annual SALCC Memorial Lecture with keynote speaker Dr. James Fletcher, and the topic, Navigating the Future, Applying the Teachings of Sir William Arthur Lewis to St. Lucia's 21st Century Challenges. So if you're interested in economics and economic resilience, sustainable development, social equity, artificial intelligence, education, or maybe you're just a fan of Sir Arthur, you know where to go tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. It's at the Financial Center, Point Seraphim. Apart from that, we also have our annual wreath-laying ceremony where we honor our Nobel laureates who are both buried here on campus. That takes place at 10 a.m. at the grave sites of the Nobel laureates. And in the afternoon, we have our newest addition to our Nobel laureate activities, the Day of Excellence. I'm sure many of you have noticed the stage erected just outside of our Derek Walcott Library. From 12 to 4 p.m. on Friday, we'll be having a host of activities displaying the excellence of our campus community. There will be performances, local food demonstrations, painters, and so much more. Also, just so that we don't only focus on the arts, we will have some of our student and staff entrepreneurs displaying their products to represent the economic side of excellence for our community. So I see we're already enjoying the debate, but know there is much more to come, so we invite all of you to our various events. Judges, are we good to go? Okay. With that being said, we would like to invite the leader of the opposition, Mr. Shyne Peter.
Moderator, judges, my worthy opponents, my comrades, invited guests, and other audience members, good day. To reiterate the moods of today's debate, St. Lucia's celebration of our two Nobel laureates is more ceremonial than consequential. I would like to first thank you all for attending this debate. It seems to be of some earnest consequence to everyone here. We of the opposition would like to assert that contrary to the moods, our annual celebrations are in fact not more ceremonial than they are consequential. I'll present this argument on the basis of two major points. Those being, one, the increased global visibility of our island, and two, the academic exposure that these celebrations facilitate within the country. Before I continue, however, I must first define to you significant terms found within our moods. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, ceremonial is described as formal acts performed on important social occasion. Consequential as serving a notable purpose to an individual or an establishment. Thus, I begin. The annual celebration of our two Nobel laureates creates a beacon for St. Lucia to become more visible on the global stage, particularly highlighting our often underrated academic prestige. This is to say that whilst the contributions of our late greats Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott did certainly create an awareness of St. Lucia's capabilities, merely those two could never have sufficed to establish the rest of the nation as academic elites. It is in how they are honored and remembered that displays the true extent of our abilities as a people. In these annual ceremonies of remembrance, our nation's great minds congeal and are able to orchestrate events of such a high cultural and academic standard, be it through the respective memorial lectures, the festivals, the cultural expressions through poetry, prose, and drama, as well as this very debate. Through the provisions of these ceremonies, St. Lucia is able to readily advertise its prowess in various fields. Through cultural output, economic theory, literary expression, and cordial ceremony alike, on par with any other nation. However, I would be amiss to omit these celebrations' quality of cultural enticement. St. Lucia, akin to her many siblings in the Caribbean, has a highly tourism-oriented economy. These Nobel Laureate celebrations are a distinctly unique cultural export. Out of the roughly 195 countries in our world today, only 81 have thus far borne Nobel Laureates. Even further still, there are only 13 nations, including ours, who have seen 2 sprout from their soil. And even more astonishingly, there are 38 nations who have produced more than 2 Nobel Laureates, and yet still, here in the Helen of the West, we are afforded the privilege to live in a country with the highest Nobel Laureates per capita, a fact that is unfortunately quite often overlooked with regards to its true significance. But the Nobel Laureate celebrations that our island holds annually bring this fact back to the very forefront of our national consciousness, and in so doing, we display internationally the depth of our cultural appreciation of our Nobel Laureates. The cultural significance that we afford through these celebrations is nothing to scoff at. Take into consideration 2 of the most well-known nations within the Caribbean, Trinidad and Jamaica. Trinidad has their own literary Nobel Laureate in the late Sir V.S. Naipaul. And despite this similarity that we share, Trinidad does not boast annual celebrations for Sir Naipaul that are comparable to ours of Sir Arthur and Sir Derek. In Jamaica's case, whilst not a Nobel laureate per se, the renowned Bob Marley, who received the United Nations Peace Medal, is celebrated globally on Bob Marley Day, the day of his birthday, February 6th. Many tourists, musicians, and activists have historically attended since its inaugural celebration in 1991. The memorial contests attract many to his homeland, such do our Nobel Laureate ceremonies to ours, as we celebrate their lives in the week of our Nobel Laureate's shared birthday, January 23rd. These celebrations allow St. Lucia to be known as a country appreciative of its own culture and those who greatly contributed both to it and to further academia. This visibility, however, does not have to be ascertained through the eyes of an entire nation. Notably, our celebration attracts the eyes of notable figures in the fields of discussion, be it economics or literature. A famous example of this was our country's indirect relationship with Irish Nobel laureates for literature, Seamus Heaney. After befriending Sir Derek during their time as lecturers at the Boston University, A biographical article released by FSG Publishers recounts, quote, he and his wife, Mary Devlin, often spent much of January in St. Lucia with Derek and his wife, Miss Sigrid Nama, where they participated in Nobel Week, honoring the country's laureates Derek and Sir Arthur Lewis, end quote. These visits did not go unnoticed nor forgotten, owing to its coverage in a popular online news source in Guyana, the Sabrick News, to quote an article entitled, Seamus Heaney, One of the Best, open quote, the Caribbean remembers Heaney as a close friend and colleague of Derek Walcott. The visits he made to St. Lucia and the activities of poets there, they have both been world leaders, close quote. The activities in question, of course, being our Nobel Laureate celebration, but even wider still, his visits to these celebrations were employed as a conduit for Sir Derek Walcott's fame, or perhaps as he would have liked to inherit, his infamy. In another article by American professor and writer David Manson, published in the Hudson Review entitled The Fame of Derek Walcott, Manson recounts an anecdote of Seamus Heaney in his visit to the 2002 Nobel Week celebrations, posting a letter to him in jovial glee as the visage of his friend Derek was on the national stamp of St. Lucia. And Manson recounts the feeling of reverence at experiencing a man of Heaney's caliber write so happily about another. It is through these celebrations that this fame was initially able to be achieved, and we have managed to put a spotlight on the splendor of what we accomplish here. Our global outreach is of significant importance, yes, yet mutually so is that of our domestic knowledge. Thus, my second point, academic exposure. These Nobel Laureate celebrations has acted as a major facilitator for the spread of academic knowledge in its time. Firstly, I'd like to speak particularly to the realm of economics. An all-important agent, acting constantly in the shadows of both micro and macro affairs, economics in a society is understandably fairly understated when compared to avenues of artistic expression. For the average St. Lucian, though they may not themselves engage in the arts, be it painting, poetry, or drama, they do have the opportunity to engage with and observe the arts on display. But as you sit in the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, think of the availability of sound economic discourse in this society. Do you believe tuning into Parliament every Tuesday is enough to engage the people on economic theory? These celebrations create a consistent and convenient avenue for sound economic discourse that is delivered with deliberate care behind it, not to convince you, but to inform you. We expose the citizens not only to the content itself, but the individuals most qualified to deliver it, especially with our memorial lectures. In 2003, for instance, our very own former principal, Dr. Keith Nurse, presented a lecture on industry and identity and highlighted the management strategies to increase the efficiency of the cultural market. In 2012, current Director General of the OECS, Dr. Jules, presented a lecture on St. Lucia's survival options amidst rising globalization. More recently even, in 2020, Governor of the ECCB, Timothy Antoine, presented his lecture, Socio-Economic Transformation by Invitation and Innovation, a theory built atop the work of Sir Arthur. We are able to discover these topics and theories of economic development by presenting these people the stage that they need, which are these very Nobel Laureate celebrations. But not just the lectures, nor just the economics. History of these Nobel Laureates and their relations, as well as their works, this debate too serves a familiar purpose, exposing to all of you the truths of your nation and establishing as well as preserving cultural arguments and discourse. This very debate is of grave consequence to understand in future the ideologies and beliefs of our people and the basis of which they were built. Thus, in conclusion, the annual celebration of our two Nobel laureates is not more ceremonial than consequential, but is in fact of great cultural, social, and academic consequence, both domestically and abroad. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. And his time was 8 minutes, 48 seconds. As our judges tabulate, we also invite you after this debate to check out our Derek Walcott Library right next door. SALCC proudly houses the Derek Walcott Library, which is home to the personal book collection of Sir Derek Alton Walcott himself. The symbolic donation by Ms. Sigrid Namer took place in January 2020, followed by the unveiling of the space where the library would be developed in January 2021. The library officially opened its doors on January 23rd, 2023, making yesterday its one-year anniversary. The Derek Walcott Library's mission is to preserve and promote Sir Derek Walcott's cultural legacy. It serves as a hub of excellence in creative arts, emphasizing literary, performing, and visual art education and literacy for both students and the community. Its unique collection includes Caribbean literature, publications by and about Walcott, art volumes, books gifted to Walcott by friends and fellow writers over the years. So for more information about the library, just hop on by, or you can go on to our website, salcc.edu.lc. The judges are still. Okay. Noted, yes. The judges, are you ready? Yep. So we will now have the seconder of the proposition, Ms. Rhea Barrett.
Picture this, a glorious podium with Sir Arthur Lewis in first place for economics, Sir Derek Walcott in second place for literature, and nothing. The third place spot remains completely empty. This will continue to be our reality as long as the Nobel Laureate celebrations remain concerned with fanfare rather than real outcomes. Good afternoon, moderator, honorable judges, my worthy opponents, esteemed guests, audience. While my leader warmed us up by getting us to the deep-rooted flaws of St. Lucian society, my argument will focus on the festival itself and truly show that the celebration of our two Nobel laureates is more ceremonial than consequential. I will analyze the effectiveness of the celebrations in developing the fields for which our Nobel laureates won prizes as a measure of the real consequentiality of these celebrations. As my leader mentioned, true consequence is found in the efforts of the Nobel Laureate celebrations to replicate the success of the laureates. Allow me to take you, moderator, judges, audience, on a journey through the celebrations in order to display the lack of consequence hidden behind the glamour. I'll begin with regards to the celebration's impact on literature. The official Nobel Laureate Festival calendar boasts activities such as paintings, plays, and interviews, all entertaining activities, sure, but fleeting. A true consequential celebration should aim for permanence in the field. Sir Derek Walcott, Nobel Laureate for Literature, poet and playwright. Don't we all love to visit the many libraries and theaters which promote literature, especially the works of our own? Oh wait, that's not possible when we have a dilapidated central library and 0 theaters. Theater should be commonplace in St. Lucia, with frequent plays and shows overflowing with audiences. To quote Sir Arthur Lewis once again, a society without the creative arts is a cultural desert. The lack of theaters as well as opportunities for persons in the field of arts is devastating to our creativity and culture as a nation. We cannot simply wait for the month of January to highlight the creative arts. Deep down, we are a nation overflowing with culture and talent, yet on the surface, our cultural desert remains dry. More needs to be done to fund, advertise, and facilitate plays and performances by St. Lucian artists in order for our Nobel Laureate celebrations to claim to be truly consequential. On to the field of economics, where the celebrations prove to be even more disappointing. The sheer lack of importance placed on the field of economics leads me to the conclusion that the celebration of our two Nobel Laureates is hardly a celebration of our two Nobel Laureates at all. Majority of activities planned are focused on the contributions and passions of Sir Derek Walcott, with little attention placed on Sir Arthur Lewis's impact on economics. The official Nobel Laureate Festival calendar has currently scheduled 7 activities exclusively recognizing the literary arts, including the Sir Derek Walcott Memorial Lecture, the Walking Tree Play at St. Mary's College, a literary workshop, and many more. Additionally, activities like the choir competition and photographic exhibition also place more emphasis on the arts. The only activity with sole focus on economics is the Sir Arthur Lewis Memorial Lecture. In order to truly be a consequential celebration of Sir Arthur Lewis, there needs to be more activities geared towards economics. For example, trade shows and exhibitions for St. Lucian entrepreneurs. We shouldn't have to wait for the St. Lucia-Taiwan Partnership Trade Show to give our entrepreneurs opportunities to showcase their business and generate revenue. Why should we require an external power to identify St. Lucian talent when excellence is achieved right here on our shores? The Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition is yet another part of our Nobel Laureate Festival calendar, which is further proof of our reliance on external sources for recognition as well as validation. As was mentioned by my partner, Lewis and Walcott had special interest in nation building, and a shift away from foreign initiative and validation is one of the few ways we can honor them. Sir Arthur Lewis claimed that his interest in economic development was, quote, an offshoot of his anti-imperialism, end quote. By remaining reliant on developed countries to recognize our accomplishments, we are in direct contradiction of our Nobel Laureates philosophies. While the tagline for the Nobel Laureate celebrations has been celebrating excellence for several years, it is the proposition's firm belief that true consequence is found in creating avenues to produce and nurture excellence right here in St. Lucia. Further evidence of the insufficiency of the festival to celebrate Sir Arthur Lewis's contributions is found in our current state of economic development. The Lewis model is a theory of development in which surplus labor from the traditional agricultural sector is transferred to the modern industrial sector, whose growth over time absorbs the surplus labor. The Lewis model foreshadowed the turnaround from what we once called third world countries into what are now emerging markets such as China, Taiwan, and Singapore. In St. Lucia presently, tourism is the island's biggest industry and main source of jobs, income, and foreign exchange, and accounts for 65% of our GDP. Agriculture, once the biggest industry, now contributes less than 3% of GDP. This directly contradicts the Arthur Lewis's belief that the islands need as large an agricultural sector as possible. Moreover, majority of the manufacturing plants in St. Lucia are owned and operated by foreign companies, which goes against Lewis's desire for government-led industrialization programs. If Nobel Laureate celebrations were truly to highlight the contributions of Sir Arthur Lewis to economics, tell me why. Moderator, judges, audience. According to the World Bank, 25.3% of St. Lucia's population was poor in 2016, which was the latest year with data available, meaning that over 44,000 St. Lucians live below $6.85 a day. The dire state of our economy indicates that the Nobel Laureate celebrations have not been consequential and are not adequate on educating the masses on the contributions of Sir Arthur Lewis, despite the 31 years of annual Nobel Laureate celebrations. To conclude, St. Lucia's celebration of our Nobel Laureates simply cannot be deemed as truly consequential when such little impact has been made on literature and economics. We cannot celebrate these great men every January without making dedicated efforts to make permanent and lasting change in the areas they were passionate about. While we would love to say that the celebrations are of true consequence, the lack of theaters and libraries, the neglect of the field of economics, and the shared disregard for Lewis's contributions make it impossible to state anything but the truth. Our celebrations of our Nobel Laureates are more about pomp and splendor than fostering effective social reform from it. Concrete social change needs to be enacted, or else our celebrations are just as shallow as the graves in which our Nobel Laureates lie right here on this campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gustave. And her time? 7 minutes, how long? 8 seconds. Okay, while we give the judges time to tally their scores, we would like to say a special thank you to all our specially invited guests, especially our various secondary schools. I saw a few SMC, S, I'm not sure about the others, my apologies. If what you see here excites you and you are in Form 5, please note that applications for the 2024-2025 academic semester begins February 12th, and it's open until Tuesday, April 30th. So check out our website for more information. We have programs in agriculture, business, digital humanities, performing arts, engineering, health and wellness, modern language, science and technology, social science, teacher education, and tourism. Also, for our online audience, if you are not interested in doing a full degree, we also offer various certificate programs, which are about 15 weeks. However, the availability of these courses change by the semester, so follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to keep up to date with our current offerings. Judges, are we good to go? So we will now bring on the seconder for the opposition, Ms. Sade Gustave.
On April 14th, 1912, the RMS Titanic, considered to be the largest, the most opulent boat of its time, sank. Not because of a mere engine failure, you know, some sea swells, the wave too big, it went whoop. It sank because of the negligence of the persons aboard. Moderator, judges, my worthy opponents, esteemed guests, and audience, I bid you all a pleasant good afternoon. As a nation, we have boasted to the world two of our brightest gems, our Nobel Laureates. Since the year 1993, 90% of this room wasn't even born. Our annual acknowledgement of our Nobel Laureates has proven to be a testament to the profound impact of their accomplishments. Part of the vessel, our Titanic, so to speak, by which we empower our people. However, today, some, much like those on the Titanic, have forgotten, neglected to acknowledge the importance, the significance of not the ship, what they could see, but the ocean, what was facilitating their journey. We, the opposition, affirm that the moot, as it stands, is more speculative and conjectural than factual. As such, my primary objective this afternoon is to look at three key points: that our recognition of our Nobel laureates allows for the exposure to our nation's culture, fosters a culture of excellence through their lasting legacy, and finally plays a crucial role in our local development. Before proceeding, I think it's important that we establish that despite these celebrations having a ceremonial aspect, that ceremonies in and of themselves can have an impact. Those things are not mutually exclusive. I would also like to mention that, for example, we swear in our Prime Minister every 5 years or after every election. Does the ceremony, is it because that it's a ceremony, it doesn't have any consequence? No. As alluded to by my fellow opposition member, our nation's annual celebrations fosters exposure to our nation's culture. These celebrations foster greater cultural exposure by having us look at the intellectual, the creative prowess that exists in our nation's population. An EU-adopted study posited that in cultural promotion, you generally realize an increased overall well-being amongst your population, an increase in the enrichment of the consumption, what is produced by businesses and what consumers take in, and also a stimulation in the confidence of communities and an increase in social cohesion. In the last 31 odd years, I think this is something that we can say we've realized, no? These activities, whether it be those that are commissioned by the government, held in schools, held in our communities, I'm sure there was at least one activity in the last many months that you have attended about one of our Nobel laureates that hasn't been something with the logo of the St. Lucia government. I'm 100% certain. It is common to relate national pride, or let me not say national pride, a sense of identity that comes along with identifying as a St. Lucian. We have the highest Nobel laureates per capita in the world. We also can say that we take that and we translate it into real life celebrations. Celebrations that I argue do not are just there for style, there to decorate the walls. It is important that I also look at the fact that the legacy left behind by our Nobel laureates transcends simply being a mere ceremony for that fact, that it fosters a culture of excellence amongst our people. And you might say no, you might say that is not the case. However, I beg to differ. I wish to also say that excellence is excellence in any form. It is not only Nobel laureates who do excellent things. Let us look at Adrian Auger, prime example. He is probably the best embodiment of both of our Nobel laureates. Sir Arthur Lewis and Derek Walcott, he's both an economist and somebody passionate in the arts. We look at, Sir Derek Walcott, not sure if you knew, quite some years ago, he won the Booker's Award, one of the most prestigious awards in the world that a poet can receive. Derek Walcott won it. Vladimir Lucian won it. Casimir Edmund, let me not butcher the girl's name. Canisia Edmund won it. Kendall Hippolyte won it. 4 St. Lucians, whereas we have 2 Nobel laureates, one of the world's most prestigious. I cannot even explain to you how prestigious this is. 4 of them won. This culture of excellence, this is what I'm speaking about. I'm not speaking about simply what the Nobel Prize is. I'm speaking about you. I'm speaking about your mother. I'm speaking about your sister. I'm speaking about your friend. The people who contribute to this sense of excellence, this sense of exceeding the expectations that persons label us with, being persons from a black country maybe, a small island developing state. I would also like to look at the fact that all these factors, whether you're looking at, like my teammate put forward earlier, the global recognition that we receive, looking at the sense of academic exposure, the cultural exposure that I mentioned, even the culture of excellence, all this contributes to local development. Moderator, I believe that given what we see, it is more than sufficient to applaud not only the Nobel Laureate Committee, but also our country. We have taken steps to show just how much we as a people can do once we come together under the umbrella of success, of celebrating that sense of excellence. When we look at the community-based initiatives, the lectures that I held at a community level, held by Vladimir Lucian, if you want to, ask him. I didn't say it, he did. Those community-type activities held this year, Library the Painting, the photography showcase this year, as well as a number of other activities. This is progress, people. Progress! And what are we celebrating? Excellence. And one of the key indicators of excellence, might I say, is progress. And that I think we have realized. In conclusion, I just wish to say that it is sad, very sad, that today there are people in this very room who represent those who fail to acknowledge our ocean, what is pushing our vessel, our country forward as a nation. We started the debate saying that when will St. Lucia see our Nobel laureates as more than figureheads at the entrance of the square? If you have listened to everything I have said, the opponent, my teammate has said, I believe that you need to do some serious, you need to check yourself. Because you are not only the iceberg that sank the Titanic, well, our ship, but part of the driving force that's bringing us to that iceberg, sinking our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gustave. And her time was 7 minutes, 22 seconds. We will now have a 5-minute break while the debaters prepare for the rebuttal. At this time, we ask the audience to please remain quiet so the debaters can focus.
The future is ever-changing. Communities, jobs, and economies are continually being transformed. This is why we need incredible minds to connect problems with innovative solutions, to disrupt and create new industries, to enable businesses to think sustainably, to shape evidence-based leaders and the next generation of visionaries. SALCC helps you to shape your career. Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career.
I can tell you are all buzzing with excitement, already writing down how you would rebut each person's point, but please, let's leave that to the debaters themselves. Now, during the rebuttal phase, the opposition will start off first, and the opposition rebutter will have 5 minutes, then followed by the proposition, who will also have 5 minutes. Just a bit of info on the criteria. For the rebuttal criteria, team coordination. How well does the team present the different points and avoid duplication? Total 10 points. General analysis of debate. How clearly does the speaker point out the flaws in their opponent's arguments? Total 15 points. Recall of points. How well does the speaker recall the opponent's points without misrepresenting them? 10 points. Ability to refute the points. How persuasive and credible are the speaker's counter-arguments? Total 20 points. Spontaneity. How well does the speaker perform in the moment? Total 5 points. And cumulatively, that goes up to 60 points. I will now invite the opposition rebutter, Mr. Camron Gustave.
Now, let me tell you, I am more than honored to be the iceberg that sinks the proposition's titanic argument. The same proposition, my esteemed colleagues, who see the state of our nation as black rather than the gray that it really is. Mr. Moderator, my honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, it is my pleasure to walk you through the lies, contradictions, and blindfolded arguments of my colleagues on the proposition side. I would like to start with an English lecture. Consequence. C-O-N-S-E-Q-U-E-N-C-E. Con, the Latin word for with. Sequence, an event that happens after another thing. My math teacher is sitting right here in the audience, sequences and series. I learned a lot from her, and I learned a lot from Derek Walcott, where I get my passion for literature. That in itself is a consequence. The broader message that I am trying to spread is that consequence is not the third Nobel Laureate. Consequence are the amount of great efforts and the amount of beautiful things our St. Lucian people have done, who have directly stated that they themselves were inspired by the actions of Derek Walcott and Sir Arthur Lewis. Yes, walk with me now. They talk about our third Nobel laureate, but in the same argument, they go on and say we don't need international approval. So what is it, proposition, that you are really trying to say? Because you would stay there, and my esteemed colleagues be blind to the great things that St. Lucians have done, yet yearn for a third Nobel laureate? Let me tell you, I don't think Alfred Nobel has any family in Choiseul. So why are we looking for this international approval? Let me go on to say that there is a failure to recognize. I keep reiterating this point because it kind of invalidates the whole argument there. There is so many great things. We have Kathleen Carew of Helen's Daughters. She has directly come out and stated, you could ask her, that she has been inspired by the heritage and the legacy of our Nobel laureates in our modern day. We have so many others. We had, in preparation for this debate, I will tell you, a conference call with Vladimir Lucia. He has gone on to win the Booker's Lit Prize. And you could call him and ask him, I could give you his number. We had a Zoom. He said directly that he was inspired by Derek Walcott, who was the only one to have won the overall Booker's Lit Prize at the time. He went on and joined his company because he had company. Ladies and gentlemen, let us open our eyes. There's an implication here that Shyne says this Nobel laureate thing, that is in the past. That is an era of St. Lucia that has long gone. I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. She calls this here a memorial service. But ladies and gentlemen, is this debate that we're doing here just mere pageantry? Am I going to get a tiara after I'm finished here? Or are we actually celebrating this in of itself is a consequence? The fact that we even aspire to get a third Nobel laureate shows so much about our willingness and our drive as St. Lucians to improve our status quo to be the best that we can be. I don't even have to take it from a patriotic angle. You can tell by the sing-song nature of my accent that I am no native to this island. Yet even I am able to recognize the contributions and having this man right here on my shirt and Obama walking around the White House with his copy of Homeros. Ladies and gentlemen, they talk about underdeveloped theater. So many of my debaters were unable to make it today because they're busy practicing for their play downstairs. It is the rejection of reality that the proposition has put forward and spindled into a nice little bundle for you all that has completely debased the entire argument. I, for one, believe that we as people should not choose to reject reality, and we need to see it for our own eyes that there is consequence to all that we are doing. The moot is the moot, I oppose it. I oppose the moot. We experience and live each day in the consequence of what they have done, and we do use it to strive even further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gustave, and his time. 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Well, I am sure Sir Leton Thomas himself would have enjoyed would want to be here for this debate. To those who may not be aware, Sir Leton Thomas served St. Lucia in education, teaching, and administration for about 45 years. Almost half a century, from 1950 to 1995. He admired Sir Arthur Lewis and his achievements. In his inaugural address to his staff as principal of SALCC, Sir Leton Thomas stated, and I quote, "Our college is named after a most celebrated and illustrious St. Lucian of renowned intellectual distinction. His life and work should inspire us towards the pursuit of excellence." Pursuit of excellence being the motto of our dear college. Apart from his position as SALCC principal, he served in various other capacities, including inspector of schools, chief education officer, permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education and Culture. Also, while our judges are still tabulating, apart from the winning team, we also have the Best Speaker Award. And this goes to the individual with the highest score percentage. Percentage because the rebutters are also eligible for the award, and because their criteria is slightly different, it will be based on percentage. Judges, are we good to go? Okay, so I will now invite, for the proposition, Ms. Faith Regis.
Good afternoon. Honestly, I, as a humanities student, just use this debate as an avenue for me to talk about what I think about every single day. Firstly, the presence of students at this debate is not an example of consequence. I can recall on my way in, seeing lecturers begging students to fill up the seats. Okay? Secondly, I also cannot recall the preposition asking for us to create a third laureate. It's like they have selective hearing. I recall them asking St. Lucians, asking St. Lucia to create the same caliber of people who were able to win a Nobel Prize. Audience, moderators, judge, I step forward to reiterate the moot, not as a question, but as a statement. Because as we know, due to my opponents merely listing various festivals that we celebrate, that the Nobel Laureate celebrations are truly ceremonial rather than just consequential. Firstly, I would like to pose actual rhetorical questions. Do we know what Sir Derek Walcott won the Nobel Prize for? What about Sir Arthur Lewis? I will be honest myself. I only know this because I am a literature student at the school. And I would like to note that I am the first year of literature students to study Derek Walcott's work at this college. What a shame. In the same breath, those of us who are familiar with industrialization by invitation, the Lewis model, would know that it was created specifically for us, that it is not implemented by us, and that it is implemented in Singapore where it is thriving. Then why is it so that some purport that the celebrations that we host every year are more of consequence than ceremonial? You would assume that a laureate from our soil who created an economic model for us would be used by us as an example of our pride, right? We don't use it. If the average St. Lucian can barely name the very pieces of work that paved the way for our Nobel laureates to win their prize, what are we truly celebrating? Pride? What are we proud of? Something to boast about? Something to say, I'm from St. Lucia and we have 2 Nobel laureates, the most per capita. Or are we truly proud of what the laureates have done for this country? While it is not wise to base a debate on opinion, I believe that the very opinion of Derek Walcott would furnish my argument. And you may ask yourself, how would I consult Derek Walcott? Well, through his work, of course, his timeless poems. In Homecoming Ancillary, our laureate laments on the fact that the average St. Lucian cannot even picture him. He walks through the streets of Ancillary, and he is saddened by the fact that an average child on the street doesn't even know who he is. He finishes his poem by stating that there are homecomings with no home. Then, in a second poem, Parades, he states that, and it's almost ironic, that he's actually speaking about the moot, where he says that independence parades are more ceremonial than consequential. He hates them. He hates the fact that every year we line up and we march for an independence parade, but nobody truly knows what we're proud of. Nobody truly understands the meaning of independence. Now you should say that the very man who hated the fact that we celebrate things just because they were ceremonial would be saddened by the fact that he is the latest face of this very notion. And if that was too nuanced, in an interview stated in the book, Conversations with Walcott, he states that the level of West Indian poetry is very, very bad. These are his words, not mine. That it is very poor. I find that very sad. And I find that an example of how our celebrations and our boasting and all of this is just merely of consequence, merely ceremonial rather than consequence. I'm thinking of consequence so much, I'm saying it. I want it to happen so much that it's just coming out of my mouth. Why do I know this? I would just like to finish by saying, as our opponent stated, festivals are a reflection of, our opponent stated, ceremonies themselves can be consequential, but I would like to say, festivals are a reflection of the social progress already underway, not a vessel to create social change itself. Finally, culture is not a spectacle manufactured or the work of individual St. Lucians, but rather the way of life of a people. I would like to ask you, as my final rhetorical, is literary and economic awareness our way of life. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Regis, and her time. 5 minutes, 55 seconds. Well, one thing for sure, you cannot say that our debaters hold back any punches, whether it be for our country or our school. So, you know, it is full transparency here. Now we ask that our judges be brought to the deliberation room for them to tally their results. And in the meantime, we will have an open discussion where you, the audience, can ask questions to the debaters or make some general comments about the moot. Please note that we're leaving the judging to the judges. So the discussion should not be about critiquing their arguments, but more about understanding their process, what challenges they faced in terms of preparation, or exploring the moot more deeply. So judges, if you'd allow our timekeeper to escort you. We would also like to make special mention of the Caribbean elective students from the UK who are now in St. Lucia on internship and who are helping out with our Day of Excellence by assisting in painting the mural by our IET building. So feel free to check that out after the debate. To get the ball rolling, I would just like to ask each of the teams, what was the most challenging aspect for preparing this debate?
When we got the moot, I think it was overcoming the fact that for a lot of us, well, at least those of us on the opposition, that is something that, the moot is something that we held to be true. I don't think we really realized just how consequential, I mean, it can be more consequential, we do admit that, well, not in our presentations, that would have been not good. But I think we can now admit that it can be more consequential. But I think overcoming that bias in only seeing the ceremonial aspects of the celebrations as they start, not only in January, but as they go on throughout the year. You know, you might hear of a poetry night, or you might hear of a debate, or you might hear of a lecture, not the Nobel Laureate lectures. And you really just see it as something that we do. But I think having done the research, which I would say is probably was the second most difficult thing to do, getting sufficient research to substantiate points, especially local data that would have been able to basically say, like, this is what it is that way because there are local sources that can support what we're saying. That was another difficulty we encountered. But I would say those are the two major things. I don't know if there's something else you want to add.
There were two major challenges that we faced actually. For one being time, there was so much that we wanted to say because we really believe that this moot can bring about real change in St. Lucia and truly show the ways in which the festival can be more consequential. When we first started, we had examples, ways, things that they can implement in order to make the festival celebrations be of more consequence. And another challenge that we faced, the opposition mentioned it as well, is the lack of data, statistical facts and figures to back up our argument. It was very hard to find that locally, which is also why we kind of had to look out for other examples, which is not something that we should have to do. And I find that's a very common theme with debates in St. Lucia, like when it's related to us, it's very difficult to find our own data, and it's also not very accessible. I had to go and look in some massive book, and I still wasn't able to find what I needed. And even when you call around, you call the ministries, you ask questions, and you still cannot find the answers for these questions. So that was one of the main challenges that we faced. Thank you.
So that was quite the invigorating debate. I think we can all agree on that, yeah. Let me give a little background. My name is Rinkich King, as was said. Very, very easy name to remember. Let me just point that out. Let me get a bit sentimental for like a second. I'm a past debater, just left the school last year. The time is flying, and If I could bring a tear to my eye, I would. But this club for me means a lot because my friend and I, past President Jaden Labra, kind of brought it back up after the COVID pandemic, halted everything. And then we brought it back up, and then to see what it's become today, to see that it's still continuing, thanks to Camron, Dasha, and even some other previous debaters who were part of the club. It's really inspiring to see. I love the student activities. I love to see it continue to go on. In relation to the debate, I think I really love when there's a debate and it leaves me kind of, I don't know which side to pick. It leaves me indecisive, because both sides brought such good points to the table, and I'd like to congratulate both teams as really good competition. And yeah, it's made me think about a lot, her saying, what was it, when Jamaica, they get gold, but they don't settle for that, they go for it again and again each year, and we should strive for that. But then on their side, the ocean being our foundation, and the fact that as much as they may not be Nobel laureates, we still have other St. Lucians receiving notable achievements, and that should not be brought down just because it's not a Nobel laureate. It's still very, very impressive. So one more time, congratulations, guys. You both did very well.
Any other questions from the audience? Questions, comments?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jada. I'm a Form 4 student at Leon Hess. First of all, wow, your debate was so amazing. It made me feel like I was in the midst of celebrities. You guys are very well educated. I just want to know if, with all the information that you have, do you plan on taking this to maybe someone in, I don't know, government, ministry, I don't know, somebody to bring these points forward, not just for us or for the people watching live, but so that St. Lucians as a whole, as a community, as a family, can be aware of the problems that we face in society. I feel like us, you and me, growing up, we are the youth, we are the ones who are supposed to stand up and bring these points forward, especially to the older generation who might be so oblivious to what's going on here. And the fact that Derek Walcott and Sir Arthur Lewis are the two probably most known names in St. Lucia, and then people like Vladimir Lucien and the rest of them that you mentioned, even I can't remember the names, that's to show you. I feel like that's just sad, and something needs to happen to bring attention to that. So the fact that you guys are now attending Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, that says a lot, because so many people wanted the opportunity and they couldn't, and imagine how many people don't have the voices that you have now. So I feel like you shouldn't waste the opportunity. I want to be in your place. I can't wait. I'm a member of the debate club as well. So it's really, I don't know, it just makes me feel really invigorated to be here and to experience this. So I feel like you guys should bring, even if you have to come together, you should bring your information forward and make something happen, because St. Lucia needs to get out of the primitive ages.
I would just like to say very well said. And as a member of the Nobel Laureate Committee, I think one of the suggestions I'm going to make this year is that we definitely have persons, young persons, students from the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College and perhaps even from the secondary schools to be part of the committee, because I think that the contributions that you would make would be invaluable. So thank you very much for that.
And again, if anyone else shares her enthusiasm, remember, Monday, February 12th, applications open.
My sociology lecturer says that the students who do sociology should have a radical mindset, and I believe that. She also told us that it's usually students who start the protest, it's usually students who are in the streets, students who are marching. I think one of the main points that my team had was that the culture in St. Lucia, the culture that we foster, is not one of social awareness, right? Also, students are the future of the country. I feel like you say that it's us, but it's us, right? It's all of us. You have the power, we have the power. It's our job to implement the change that we want to see. And I feel like if we begin, because they've been telling us from young that we are the future of the country. I think we really need to take that in our hands and internalize what they tell us because it's true. I feel like if we really banded together, like you were saying, we could really implement the social change that we want to see. If we begin to foster a culture of social awareness, that we would really see the change in the future generations. It's not for us to dream, it's not a dream anymore. It has to become our reality. All of us are like under some veil. It seems like we're asleep, that we don't see what's happening around us. It's like you see what's happening, you don't do anything about it. You talk about it, but you talk about it in the wrong spaces. I see it. A few of us are aware of it, but still we don't do anything about it. I don't play a big of a part as I should. And I feel like since all of us already know this and we have been afforded platforms to speak about it, that we really need to take it in our own hands rather than lending it to somebody else, saying, you can do it, I can do it, I can do it, you can do it, all of us can do it.
Yes, speaking to her same point, great point by the way, where I think of it having mostly two potential or readily available angles to it, of student change in particular. Either of, firstly, a student unity that comes together and operates within the guidelines of the institution itself, or far more interestingly and far more likely, a student body that operates independently of the administration, that comes together to omit and ignore the red tape, to ignore the administration, their poor timing, their poor judgments, poor reaction times. A student body that will come together, meet together, organize together, to promote the angles that they want, the vision that they want, not to wait for the supposed titled student council to break itself up from the ashes, but to speak within themselves in the groups that they already have the ideas. They're not creating the ideas. All they're doing is unifying themselves underneath the banner of the ideas that they've held for so long. They don't need to get the permission, the labeling, the check sign, the signature. They need to come together with the idea. They need to bring it forward as a single unified body that cares for it. How to do that, however, is a different circumstance that I would want to be able to speak on, that I would want to be able to have, which is why I don't speak so radically so often, because I don't have readily available how to unite an entire student body, to unite a society, unite people of the certain age group, especially in such a desensitized country like St. Lucia, which it is, it very much is. But yes, I wholeheartedly believe in the vision of students being the force of revolution, the force of protest, the force of marching, and the force of change, definitely. I advocate for it highly, and I hope for it to be implemented, especially in your time when you come in 2 years' time, I assume that is, and people of your era to take it up, to keep it in you, to have people of like mind and to work towards it. It's possible, it'll happen. Thank you.
I am Ethan Glasgow. I am the president of the St. Mary's College Public Speaking Club, and I have a question for the proposition. Now, the proposition mentioned Sir Arthur Lewis's work and how us as St. Lucians don't really know his work. Well, I did a little bit of research into this before I came here, and the work that Sir Arthur Lewis did to win the Nobel Prize in 1979 is Economic Development with Unlimited Supplies of Labor, published in the University of Manchester. So my question for the proposition is, what steps can St. Lucia take right now to try to follow in Sir Arthur Lewis's footsteps? Thank you.
Can you please give our debaters some time to formulate their response? Opposition, please feel free to help your fellow debaters out.
In the meantime, we have another question here from one of our students at the college.
Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Polius. I am a CAPE student of Literature, Sociology, and French. And that is a lot of topics because not only do I have to study American, European societies and the Caribbean societies, I gotta learn about the French ones that are not even associated with the Caribbean. So I have, listening to their debate, I have analyzed a lot of other countries and maybe what they would have to celebrate, not just their Nobel laureates, but other people in smaller ways, but also in very grand ways, how they have done literature and economics. But when I listened to them and I thought about it, I was biased to consequential because I do not find Nobel laureates to be very ceremonious, even though I hear about it all the time. Because I'm born St. Lucia, but I grew up in St. Vincent. So I would hear about it regardless, that St. Lucia has 2 Nobel laureates. And I'll be like, okay, that's pretty cool actually, because St. Vincent, as far as I know, I don't know yet, has none. So it's interesting to see someone have 2 Nobel laureates, not just 1, 2, and they're Nobel. So I thought that maybe they were celebrating that like all the time until I got here in Form 1 and I heard about Nobel Laureates Day. I was like, this must be a grand thing. Like this is someone who's like, a country, that is celebrating Nobel Laureates, 2 of them. And they'll just be like, there's gonna be something at the Finance Administration Center one day, the next day, and then just being like, yeah, woohoo. And then the week passes by and everyone forgot about it until someone asked, that's not the country with 2 Nobel laureates, that's St. Lucia, woo, you know? But hearing them all talk about other countries and stuff, I think, and I would like to get the perspectives from the others, what the core of the argument may be is that whether or not it's ceremonial or consequential, maybe it's a different adjective or adverb, its core is that there isn't a thorough celebration of these people for what they have done, because I can't remember which side had mentioned it, but these people have written several articles of economic theories and of literature cases, many plays, many poems, many economical theories and discoveries. But we never really stated that when someone asks, what do these Nobel laureates do? We say, oh, this one got it for economics. One of their theories, industrialization by invitation. Derek Walcott, he got it for his many plays or his poems. We know Othello's very well, but what other poems do we know or plays that we know? As my classmates who had stated, there is Parades, Homecoming, Ancillary, correct? Homecoming, Ancillary, but I find, which one? A Far Cry from Africa actually really nice as well. So I think it's just the celebration of them to be the core problem with Nobel Laureates Day, that we aren't going into depth about what they have done, how they have done it, and how we want to inspire other people. And with that, how we want to inspire other people, that's where I think the consequence is born. Because not only do we have one, when the second one was born, that's when St. Lucia was like, okay, we have something rolling, so everyone else, as a consequence of a second one coming in, wants to do something great. So yes, they have ceremony, but I think it died over time by the time we had a second one, which was like, all right, we need more people, we need more people. And we have more people, we're just not celebrating it. Hence why now we have an argument, well, a debate about whether or not it's ceremonious or if it is consequential. So I think the core and proposition and opposition could argue, if it is their core in the first place, that it is just not the proper celebration of it that is causing this tension between whether Nobel Laureates Day is valuable in that sense or not.
I believe that one of the most effective ways that we can get change is to start from as young as possible. I do think, like we said, for people who do go to the Nobel Laureate lectures and who do attend those events, those are useful for us. But the issue is not having a wide enough base of people who are interested. And my mother's a teacher. She's been a teacher since the 90s, and she would tell me that back in the day, as in a few decades ago, there would be all of these events with the rallies for independence, and that you'd have all of the schools coming together, and then you look on NTN, and then you see there are these choral groups for Journée Creole or for Christmas or wherever, and you're like, this is when schools would come together and do performances, and they'd get in the same space and do those kinds of things. From primary school, from early, like 6 years old, and they're up on the stage and they have the mic in their hand. And I'm like, I feel like I missed out on that. I'm like, why did we stop doing that? So I think that if we want to start from early, and we start from primary school, and we get those festivities that are catered to that, then we could see more people joining in later on. Because if we have somebody who's I mean, I don't want to say our age, there's a lot of people, but from college students, if we're only learning now about what the economic theories are, then we're not going to have as good of an understanding of it as if we started from before. And I'm very sorry with your question. Again, it's like we know the basics, but if we were to actually outline a step-by-step plan, it's like, all right, we're not there yet. So if we started from earlier on with understanding what that means, then at this point we would be able to get way deeper into it and have a better understanding of it. But before we do that, we can't start from at this level. We have to go from earlier, and we have to cater to the youngest among us.
Okay, we'd like to thank everyone who made their contributions during the open discussion. And because of the level of the applause, we look forward to the sponsorship and the support for our next debate. So now for the results. Dramatic pause. For the proposition, out of 780 points, they scored 689. For the opposition, out of 780 points, they scored 605. Therefore, the winners of our 2024 Nobel Laureate Festival student debate is the proposition side. So we would like Mr. Ajani Lebourne to help us with the giving of certificates. But just before that, we also have the Best Speaker Award. So out of 300 points, the Best Speaker scored 278. And that goes to the seconder of the proposition, Miss Rhea Barrett. So we will start with the participation certificates with the proposition leader, Ms. Shyne Savory. We have for the seconder for the proposition, Ms. Rhea Barrett. For the rebuttal, we have Ms. Faith Regis. And then for the opposition, we have the leader, Mr. Sharm Peter. For the seconder, we have Ms. Sade Gustave. And for the rebutter, we have Mr. Camron Gustave. For the winning team, we also have trophies as the winning team, so you can come up. to hand over. We also have the trophy for the best speaker, which is going to Miss Rhea Barrett. Yes, and each of our debaters will also be getting a complimentary Nobel Laureate mug. We would like to thank all persons who made this possible. Okay, we have some comments from the judges.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Combi. I would like to adopt the established protocol and begin by, first of all, commending the organizers and the ancillary, who are called the ancillary contributors to this incredible afternoon. I think you did very well, Mr. Moderator. You set the tone in your delivery, and I think the speakers followed through. And generally, as judges, we were very impressed with the commitment of all of the students. I must say that I was rooting for the opposition to the moot, especially you may have had a little bit of a stiffer challenge, but sometimes in life you have those who win and those who come second. Tatiana, who did the national anthem, wonderful singing voice. Is she left or is she still around? But certainly I appreciated her singing. As you move on from here, I think we would like to encourage you as that in your life to read more widely, with greater depth. Never cease to seek to explore knowledge. And you're very fortunate because as students you have at your disposal the internet. And you're really just a couple clicks away from the brightest people in the world. Okay, so certainly use that to become powerful. And by becoming powerful through knowledge, you then are able to replicate what the Nobel Laureates achieved, in whose image we are today. So, and as a country, we desperately, desperately need you to do this. You must be tasked with doing it, I want to pay a particular tribute to the students who are doing law. I think Faith and Shyne. I hope that one day you will continue in the profession. It's a great profession. It's a noble profession, and we need people like you. I shudder to think that I am already getting on in the profession, but I don't have as much youthfulness as I once did. So I want to encourage you to please continue in the profession. And to Rhea, congratulations. You did a great job. You all did a fantastic job. You just managed to get your nose through the tipping line just on the point. But you certainly did a great job. I don't want to prejudice the comments by referring to anybody else, but yes, we're very happy with your presentation. And sometimes presentation is not so much about the theatrics, but the diction and the sensory awareness, of the audience, how you come across, and even your own person. So sometimes we, might mumble. I'm a mumbler, so I have to be conscious that I need not to mumble. And maybe your rate of speaking, not too sluggish, and at the same time, not too fast, because there are people who are listening to you and need to follow what you're saying. Okay, so not wanting to give another lecture or speech. That's it. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much for coming, and it was our pleasure.
So, and again, we'd like to thank all those that made it possible, all our sponsors as well as contributors. And we would like to say a special thank you to Ms. Jacobs, who is our debate coach. And for all of our debates, she has served us tirelessly, so we want to give her a special token of our appreciation. Once again, thank you, audience, both in person and online, and I wish you all a pleasant afternoon.